Hola and welcome to Cancun in Mexico. My name's Mark. I'm a Kiwi rugby fan living here in Mexico, and in this video I'm going to be talking about Scotland's upcoming game this weekend against Georgia. Hey, welcome to my video, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the Scottish game against Georgia this weekend at Murrayfield. It's the last Scottish game in Scotland before they head off to the Rugby World Cup. And to everybody who's a fan of the Georgian rugby team, my apologies ahead of time. I don't have your team at this point in time for this game, but I'm going to be having a close look at the Georgia rugby team in the weekend and doing a full review of this game afterwards, so make sure you come back to have a look for that. Now, Scotland are simmering away very nicely as we head towards this Rugby World Cup, and I've got to tell you what, I've got some very good vibes going on about this Scottish team. I think they've got a lot of class right across the field, and we're going to see most of those players playing this weekend. In fact, now, a lot of my viewers on this channel have pointed out to me that Scotland have been playing good rugby for a number of years, and that of course is the case, but now we're in a Rugby World Cup year, and this is what it really means to see how far they can go in this Rugby World Cup. And I'm pinning my hopes on Scotland doing something very exciting in this Rugby World Cup, as long as they can put consistent games together against the top teams, and I think that's going to be their telling point. But let's have a look at this game in the weekend. There's been a number of changes made in the Scottish lineup for this weekend, and I guess those changes come in mind because of that huge game that Scotland's going to be playing first up on September the 10th against South Africa, and I reckon that's going to be the game of the pool in that particular series. Also, Scotland have got to play Ireland, of course, but I think it's going to be that South Africa game that's going to be really the difference for this Scottish team. Now, what I like about this particular Scottish team is their explosiveness and their ability, particularly in the forwards, to win breakdown ball, and I think that's going to be a pivotal component of their success or failure at this year's Rugby World Cup. So watch out for, in particular, their flankers and number 8 having a big impact on this game against Georgia in the weekend. Now, it's the last opportunity for the Scottish fans to watch the Scottish team at Murrayfield, so I'm sure there's going to be a great turnout in the weekend to watch this. And don't write off Georgia at all, because they're ranked number 11 in world rugby at the moment, and you've got to remember that these lesser teams, they play far less number of test matches against the top teams, and we've seen that with the tier 2 nations from the Pacific Islands. They get to play half the number of games against international top teams. So Georgia's doing very, very well considering that fact. So let's see how they go in this World Cup. But let's have a look at the Scottish team that's going to run out this weekend against Georgia at Murrayfield, and we'll start off by having a look at the forwards. In the front row for Scotland, we have Barty, Cherry and Neil, and yeah, very good tight three in there, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Dave Cherry plays in this game and whether or not he wins a lot of ball for Scotland. A good tight three for Scotland, and I see them doing the job against. So in the locks for Scotland in this game, we have Sam Skinner and Grant Gilchrist, two great players able to get lots of ball in set pieces for Scotland, and I don't think they'll let the Scottish team down at all. So expect both Gilchrist and Skinner to have big games for Scotland. It's the back three that really excites me for Scotland. We've got Ritchie, Darge and Dempsey, and these guys are on fire and they bring a lot of explosiveness to the back three for Scotland. And don't forget, Rory Darge is up against the likes of Watson and Crosby. That's right, I got it right. For competition for that place in the flanker position, but Rory Darge is just bringing something phenomenal. I think this guy is going to be a superstar in Scotland rugby and in world rugby in years to come. He's absolutely explosive, he's dynamic around that breakdown, and with Watson and Crosby on the bench for Scotland in the Rugby World Cup, I think Scotland have got an absolutely huge amount of talent sitting in their back three. So yeah, watch out for Jack Dempsey as well at number 8. Huge player, very, very good for Scotland. And I see this Scottish forward pack really giving Georgia a hard time, and they should dominate both in the set pieces and also in the breakdown of open play when it comes to mauls and breakdowns. So now looking at the Scottish backline, and we have Ben White and Finn Russell in at halves this weekend. And of course we saw that tremendous performance by Finn Russell last time out against France, marshalling his troops around the field and playing a fantastic game of rugby. Ben White is a good connector for him in there at halfback, so expect these two to be able to set the Scottish backs on fire, and also some probing runs in through the close defence of the Georgian team. I expect Scotland to try and take advantage in that part of the field. And then moving out to the centres, we've got Sione Tuipulotu, who is playing very, very well at 12. I mentioned before in a previous video, I'd like to see him take on the line a little bit more and try for some line breaks. He's very good at taking the ball up to the line, setting up the next phase of play, but I'd like to see him have a go and try and break through the defences himself. Outside Tuipulotu, we have Hugh Jones, who's playing really, really well. Thought he had a magnificent game against France, and see him being one of the stars for Scotland at this year's Rugby World Cup. Really like Hugh Jones there at outside centre. Then looking on the wings, we've got, of course, Duhan van der Merwe, and I would like to see him getting back to his brilliant best. He seems to be not getting perhaps enough ball out there on the Scottish wing, but when he does, he's always dangerous, able to make a line break, and of course he can score tries from either end of the field. On the other wing, we see Darcy Graham back this week. I'm excited to see Darcy Graham. He's almost scoring a try a game for Scotland, or he is scoring a try a game for Scotland, and I'm sure he's going to put in another sensational performance. So two rapidly fast wingers for Scotland this weekend. Expect them to do some damage and score some tries against this Georgian team. At fullback, we've got Ollie Smith coming in for Kinghorn, and it's going to be a good chance for Ollie Smith to show Gregor Townsend what he's got ahead of this World Cup. Of course, Kinghorn has been playing very, very well, I think, at fullback. He brings a big size to that position for Scotland. He's been good on the counter offensive when he's taken the ball up from kicks from the opposition. And Ollie Smith's got his chance this weekend to play well. Then off the bench, Gregor Townsend's gone for a 5-3 split, 5 forwards and 3 backs. And in his forwards, he's got Ashman, Sutherland, Sebastian Cummings and Matt Fagerson coming off the bench. So a lot of power, a lot of strength there for Scotland off the bench, and expect those guys to make a significant impact when they come on, either in the second half or if injuries dictate that. And then the backs in the reserves, we've got Horn, Healy and Harris. And again, halfback coverage is pretty strong in the Scottish team, so it'd be good to see how those guys come. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about the Scottish team? Do you think Gregor Townsend's got the balance right going into this game? Do you think those forwards that I mentioned in particular, Darge and Dempsey, are going to be pretty frightful for the Georgian pack? And do you think Scotland's going to win a lot of ball at both breakdown and set piece? Because I think that's going to be a telling phase of this particular game. If Scotland are able to control that first phase of the game through their forward domination, then they're going to be able to set their backs up to have an open game. So they've got to make sure they dominate Georgia in the forwards in the beginning, first 15 minutes or so of the game, and then let us see what those backs can do. So no doubt I'm expecting a Scottish win here over Georgia, a comfortable win over Georgia this weekend by probably 20 points. And I'm looking forward to seeing what both the Scottish forwards and how dominant they could be, and unleashing those Scottish backs, and let's see some fireworks from the Scottish backs this weekend. Let me know what you think of this game. How do you think it's going to unfold, and what do you think of the Scottish team? Do you think they've got the mettle to go a long way in this Rugby World Cup and to get out of Pool B against South Africa and Ireland? It is going to be a fascinating part of the World Cup trajectory this year to see what happens in Pool B, and I'm sure there's plenty of surprises and upsets ahead for all of us. So as I've said many times now, I'm excited by the Scottish team. I'm looking forward to this game in the weekend. If you're going along to Murrayfield to watch Scotland play their last game at home before they head off to the World Cup, have a fantastic time, embrace the positive vibes around this team, and let's see what they can do against Georgia in the weekend. Okay, that's it for this video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, follow my channel all the way through the Rugby World Cup. I'm going to be covering the warm-up games again this weekend, as well as obviously the first round of the Rugby World Cup. Also next week I'm going to be doing my pool predictions for each of the pools, going through the pools and looking at what teams I think are going to have trouble and what teams I think are going to be the stalwarts in this year's Rugby World Cup. So also keep an eye out for that. Okay then, that's it for this video. Until next time, stay safe, stay well everyone, and remember to enjoy your rugby. Bye for now.